Hi, I'm Sean Costigan, the director of the Lower Manhattan Project at the New School. Today, we have the privilege of talking with Ian Dunlop. And Ian, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your work.
Thanks, Sean. I'm Ian Dunlop. I'm an independent advisor on governance and sustainability issues, with a particular focus on climate and energy and corporate responsibility. And I'm also the deputy convener of the Australian Association for the Study of Peak Oil.
Okay. Well, as we've seen, the global economy is undergoing a radical shift. And the question that we have relates to how governments are positioned. And they're currently positioned to take a controlling interest in numerous firms. And the regulation of markets is also now a focus. Do you foresee this having a long-term effect on energy and the environment?
Well, I think it's inevitable the way the financial crisis has unfolded that governments have taken up positions in these firms. Obviously, they're concerned to maintain employment and stability in a situation that's quite unprecedented. In a longer-term sense, I think it would be preferable if they didn't retain those interests, and I'm sure that's their intent. But we are at the point where we need to make absolutely radical changes to the way in which the economy operates. And this goes far beyond the sort of stimulus that we've been hearing about across the world at the present time. Most of the stimulus activity that I think has been put in place is really aimed at reactivating the existing system. In other words, stimulating what I believe is patently unsustainable. We can't keep doing what we have been doing in the West. We really have to move to a different sort of economic activity. Now, the conditions that are emerging, I think, with government ownership of various organisations do actually provide the opportunity to set the trend for that redirection. But it needs, I think, a broader vision and different leadership from the one that so far we've seen from global leaders.
As a follow-on, in regards to energy and the environment, are there problems that governments do not yet recognize, but which could become economic burdens in the future?
Well, I think we are at an absolute crisis point. If you look at the climate change situation, it's quite clear from the latest science that things are happening far faster than scientists originally thought. The scientists, to be fair to them, have been reluctant, I think, to put out too much sort of extreme view, in a sense, until they were sure of their facts. But the evidence is quite clear that things are moving very quickly. The theories that scientists have been producing for a long time now seem to be coming true. We are talking now about reduction in carbon emissions around the world. We have the major conference coming up in Copenhagen in December this year. But the problem is far more serious than in the way it's being debated in the political system. I mean, it's not just the question of relatively minor reductions in emissions. You really have to move to almost complete decarbonisation of the economy by 2050 and much bigger cuts than is being talked about by 2020. On the energy front, we had a spike in oil prices last year, which in my view reflects the fact that we're approaching a peak of global oil supply. Those prices, of course, have collapsed as demand has fallen off with the financial crisis. But the problem hasn't gone away, it's still there. So as soon as we get a resurgence in economic activity, we're going to be back into high oil prices. And it may sound hard, but we actually want that. We actually want oil prices to go up, because if we don't see that happen, then we're not going to start to change our behaviour.
And so if there were one thing that you could do right now with regard to energy, the environment, and the economy, what would it be?
Well, a two-part answer. One, governments have to start becoming honest about the size of the problem, and they're not doing that at the present time. We have to go into the Copenhagen meetings with the latest science, not science that is 5 or 6 years old, otherwise we won't have a sensible solution. And three, you then have to start to educate the community honestly on what we're facing and the fact that we have major change. It sounds quite scary, all this stuff, but we know the solutions. We can get on and put those in place and essentially stabilise the system we're currently in, and that is not that complicated. I mean, it's been very clear for a number of years what we have to do. But what is lacking is the will to honestly face up to it and start to do something about it.
Great. Thanks, Ian.